good morning, good morning, teams of the Most High. And I believe this is like our number 18 Sunday school. So just welcome, welcome. Hope that you had a great night, everything, so that we are up and getting to church this morning. So I do want to go ahead and pray and say, Lord, we thank you for this day, Lord. We thank you for allowing us to, to do so many different things in you, Lord. Being able to wake up, walk around, do just anything and everything because you are such a grateful, gracious King. So Lord, we thank you for allowing us all to bind together today. And I pray a so again, I am not going to be going back very long today. Um, we are going to continue on. Last Sunday we talked about we'll talk about King David and the start of what he did or how he became king and how he became to get noticed and things like that. So this time I'm just going to read a few um, scriptures just overall to kind of show you some of the things that David went through. All right. Give me 1 second. I'm in a long passage here. Okay. Second Samuel. So we're going to Second Samuel, chapter Second Samuel, chapter 11. And we're going to start reading at verse 1, and we're reading until 27. And of course, after that, we will have our questions. All right, and this is David is older now. He's been king for a little while, and it's some of the things that he went through. I guess some people can call them some of his failures. It's things like that. All right. All right, here we go. In the spring of the year, when kings normally go out to war, David sent Joab and the Israelite army to fight the Amorites. They destroyed the Amorites' army and led a siege to the city of Rabbah. However, David stayed behind in Jerusalem. Late one afternoon, after his midday rest, David got out of bed and was walking on the roof of the palace. As he looked over the city, he noticed a woman unusually beautiful taking a bath. He sent someone to find out who she was, and he was told she is Bathsheba, the daughter of and the wife of Attai. Then David sent message to go get her. And when she came to the palace, he slept with her. And she had just completed the purification rite of having her menstrual period. Then she returned home. Later, when Bathsheba discovered that she was pregnant, she sent David a message saying, "I am pregnant." Then David sent word to Joab, "Send me to Ronahim." So Joab sent him to David. So Joab sent him to David. And Joram arrived. David asked him how Joab and the army was getting along and how the war was progressing. Then he told Joram, "Go on home and relax." David even sent a gift after he left the palace, but he didn't go home. He spent that night in the palace entrance with the king's palace guard. When David heard that he had not gone home, he summoned him and asked, "What is the matter? Why didn't you go home last night after being away for so long? He replied, the ark of the enemies of Israel and Judah are living in tents, and my master's men and the campings are open field. How could I go home to wine and dine and sleep with my wife? I swear that I would never do such a thing. Well, stay here today, David told him, and tomorrow you may return to the army. So he stayed at Jerusalem for the day and the next. Then David invited him to dinner and got him drunk. But even then, he couldn't get him to go home to his wife. Again, David slept in, oh, sorry. Again, he slept in the palace entrance with the king's palace guard. So the next morning, David wrote a letter to Jehovah that he will send Uriah to deliver. The letter instructed Jehovah, station Uriah in the front of the lines where the battles are fierce. Then pull back so that he will be killed. So Uriah was assigned to the spot closer to the city wall where the enemy's strongest men were fighting. And when the enemy soldiers came out of the city to fight, Uriah and Hitti were killed along with several of the other Israelite soldiers. Then Jehovah said a battle note report to David. He told his messenger, report all the news of the battle to the king. But he might get angry and ask, why did the troops get so close to the city? Didn't they know where they would be shooting from the walls? Wasn't Amiam the son of Gideon killed in Trans by a woman who threw a millstone down and hit him from the wall? Why would you get that close to the wall? Then tell him that Uriah of Hitti was killed too. Right? Just 5 more scriptures off. So the messenger was sent to Jerusalem to give a complete report to David. The enemy came out against us in the open field, he said, as we chased them back into the city gate. Their archers on the wall shot arrows at us. Some of the king's men were killed, including Uriah the Hittite. Well, tell Joab to not be discouraged, David said. The sword devours this one day and the next day. Fight harder next time and conquer the city. When Uriah's wife heard that her husband had died, she mourned for him. When the period of mourning was over, David sent for her and brought her to the palace, and she became one of his wives. Then she gave birth to a son. But the Lord was displeased with David and what he had done. Right? So just thinking about that, like what David overall did there. But before I start answering or talk about things, let's just jump right into these questions. Okay. So we have 6 questions here. So according to verse 1, where were kings normally? So during this time, where were kings supposed to be? Number 2, why doesn't David go? So where was he supposed to be is number 1, but why didn't he go? Number 2. Number 3, after reading about David's adultery, how far how far from the faithful man who killed Goliath does he seem? Okay, so remember how we started the first last week where how he was that person that killed Goliath. So remember that story. We're going to answer that question. Number 4, once he sorry, it's getting dark. Once he sinned this way, how does he compound the problem? Okay, number 5, Why does Uram not go home to his wife? So why doesn't he go home to his wife? And number 6, how does verse 27 in the kind of understanding way summarize God's perspective? Right. So again, number 1, according to verse 1, where are kings normally? During this time, when there's a war, the kings are there. They have a tent or station there with the rest of the army, but he wasn't. He was at home. And they never said why he didn't go. So number 2, why didn't he go? He never said. It just said it wasn't normal for a king to stay behind, and he stayed behind away from the battle. All right, number 3. After reading about David's adultery, how far of a different person does he seem from what we learned last week when, he was being courageous and fighting for life? And it seemed, honestly, it did seem like it was night and day. It was a total different person. Number 4, once he sinned in that way, um, once he sinned in that way, how does he compound the problem? Like, how does he feel like he can solve that problem? Which way did he do that? David, I'm talking about. And it didn't say it, but he kept trying to send David to go home. Or David, sorry. He kept trying to send Uriah to go home to be with Bathsheba, hoping that he would sleep with Bathsheba so that the baby can be portrayed as his. And so that's why he was trying to send him home. And why didn't Uriah go home for number 5? Why didn't he go home with it to be with his wife? And um, it sounds like he was just being fair and courageous. Um, the rest of the group didn't get to go home or any of those things because they were still in battle. So he didn't want to leave and do things like that and just, like it said, grind and die. He wanted to stay in the mindset of the battle. And number 6, in what kind of way does this verse summarize God's perspective? And I mean, I feel like it's the same way that we all would think that the Lord would fit. That it just said he was displeased. It said the Lord was displeased with what David had done. And of course, he would be. He committed adultery and then tried to cover it up, and then that didn't work, and then he did more to where he just decided to have the person killed so that he could not have to deal with the backlash. So just thinking about all those things and how things, can snowball into being way more of an issue than if we were to, if you would have just faced it up front or, even not even doing what happened. So that is honestly what I have for you guys today. Of course, don't go anywhere because we still have our church service here soon. I believe this is our last Bible study or Sunday school for about a month. We are taking a break in August, so just be forewarned on that. And then we will put postings to let you know when we'll be. All right, but I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day and be blessed.